Okay, welcome to the Rich Revolutionary Podcast. As I've introduced you before, introducing you again, we have the one, the only, the luminous, magical, Miracle Oracle Odree Martin. And to invite you in here, I want to hear a little bit about how you would describe yourself before we go into telling everyone how we know each other.
Thank you for this invitation. For some reason, I don't like to describe myself because I like to be experienced.
Uh-huh.
So I will do my best in describing who I am. I am someone with several hats. I'm a mother. I'm a New Earth business owner. I am someone who value humanity, and communication most of all. Having an online business has been a journey because I've discovered all the possible automations, the use of AI, the conversations that are not in real time, conversations that are delayed with different time zones and everything. And lately, that has been a topic that is coming up even more for me to bring back humanity in the way we do business in this era of the new earth, to recode the conversations we can have online. Because I must say that a lot of them have been disappointing for me, even sometimes hurtful or just let me confused. So I kind of made it a mission lately, like this is what's really alive for me. And as the Miracle Oracle, I really believe we can create that miracle because I must say that I've also seen a lot of people choosing automation, which is a valid choice, but they're choosing automation to avoid human interactions because they consider those interactions to be depleting,
Mm.
draining.
Mhm.
And what I want to bring here is really this concept of what is draining and depleting is not the human interactions, it's not the connection, it's really the disconnection and the separation. So choosing automation is absolutely fine. Like we can use tools like AI to help us become more productive, of course. But if you choose from avoidance, then I think it's important to recalibrate and
Mm.
see and understand that humans are always going to be part of your business because there are people who are buying your services or your products. So you can't avoid human interactions somewhere on the path. Like it's just inevitable. So we'd rather like be able to handle it in a way that not only makes sense, like human to human, but also that feel in a way that feels empowering and pleasant, right? And nurturing.
Mhm.
So that's lately like what's really alive for me, but I kind of deviated from the original question. Um,
Perfect.
so what I do is I provide services for new earth leaders or light leaders or visionaries, paradigm shifters, people who are breaking cycles and opening new doors in such ways that they're also becoming a target for projections. And
Mm.
people who need this intimate space where they can reveal themselves fully without having to wear like this mask or this armor, like the place where they can really let down everything, like all the guard,
Mhm.
so they can be held after they go up front, you
Mhm.
know? So that's what I do, that's the way I serve, and also who I am. It's like I'm always deviating from the question. Who I am, who I am. Well, actually, I just want to say that I'm a catalyst. Today, this is what sounds true for me. So I'm a catalyst. I'm a person who go into spaces and activate them from within through conversations, through genuine connections, and not only connections with other people, but connections with resources. I really love to see like connections with ideas even. Like I really love to see the connections between a person and everything that's in the field. So whether it's an idea, resource, another person, I like to connect people together. So that's who I am.
Mhm. Hmm. I love the way that you told that story and like this cyclical, like weaving towards the center. That's how I love to tell stories too. There's so many like pings that came up for me as you were saying it, but one I want to touch on is the golden thread through all of them is that like thread of connection
Hmm.
and how when we're showing up from that baseline of connection, when we are attuned to what's going on in the field within ourselves and in the relational space, which is weaving with the field, then what we are doing inside of our businesses, that really is the portal to serve our mission for us New Earth leaders, is actually allowing for that connection to be nourishing to us, to our clients, as you like to call them, sacred partners,
Yeah.
and to the community and the collective at large. And so when we're talking about regenerative, reciprocal energy and business, this is really what's at the root of it. It's like, okay, well, if you're not super lit up and excited by connecting with people in your business, if you're not seeing relationships as the foundation, as the floor of your business, okay, like there's kind of two veins that we can take from there. Like one, maybe that's just your truth, that's the path that you've chosen on this life. But if that doesn't feel sustainable, or if you know like deep within you, or maybe right at the surface of breaking through that surface tension of like this isn't right, then welcome, this is the place for you. And we're going to dive into that and slowly ease into the layers because as we were talking before this, you're like, whoa, these questions are really deep. I have a few questions that I want to touch on. And I kind of live like really, really deep within myself. And so for me, this is like, oh, this is just where my curiosity goes. But I want to create a space for you where you feel that natural ease and flow of like descending through the layers together. How's that sound?
That's perfection.
Okay, beautiful. So, second part of my first question, we're coming back to how we know each other. So, we actually met in a high level mastermind called The Vortex by Shoshana Raven. And on my first call, I heard Audrey speak. And at this point, this was March. I don't know how many months ago that is now at this time of recording. Whoever's watching can calculate. I'm not good with linear math. Um, but Audrey was asking questions of like, yeah, go ahead. 5 months, 5 months. Yes, it has been 5 months. And Audrey was asking questions like trying to figure out what she was selling and showing up with so much confidence and belonging in that space. And there I was, like new in the space, like sitting there, terrified to even raise my hand. Well, I had a business, I knew what I was selling, but what I didn't yet embody, and which has been a massive breakthrough for me, was that sense of unwavering belonging because I belong where I choose that I belong and I show up as if. And that's something that I've been able to learn through osmosis of being in your presence and in your field. And it's like kind of foreshadowing where we're going. um, so after this initial incident, this initial connection point between us on that call, oh, they actually showed up in my dreams. So this was telling me that we were like connected beyond just this masterclass, beyond just that call, that we actually had a connection to explore in the quantum field. And I so boldly slid into her DMs and said, "You've penetrated my consciousness. We must hop on a call together." And so I'm curious to hear kind of the flip side of what your experience has been like of getting to know me.
Well, what I love the most about you, and I cannot forget this part, is when you approached me, I was actually in the process of filing my taxes and I was already late doing my taxes. And I
Mm-hmm.
had promised myself that I was not taking any new endeavor or like new conversations, new contracts, like nothing until I finish filing my taxes. And that was really important, this commitment, because I was not even sure if I owe money or whatnot. And I was kind of like foreseeing interest and stuff. And I was like, no, I need, like, this is a priority right now. So I told you that. I said, I appreciate your invitation so much for a coffee chat. And however, like I want to finish my taxes first, so I'll get back to you for, a meeting or something. And what you replied to me with so much like ease and I don't know, like welcomeness, does that word exist even? Like you just said, I love a queen who honors her boundaries. And I was like, wow, I love to feel accepted in my own boundaries. And that was not that this boundary was not to push away someone or to actually, put walls up. That was not the point. It was more like right now I have a priority and like I'm really focused on this. And you just understood and you accepted the fact that okay, the timing was not ideal and you didn't take it personal, and I could just feel it. I could feel the space, the spaciousness in the relationship, even though like it was our first connection point. And this for me, like who is really into feeling things, like this for me was very important.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that there was space for me to just come back later when it aligns and we would see from there, right? What would unfold. Like there was no rush to connect.
Yeah, I forgot that. But I do love a queen who honors her boundaries, because that tells me about you that I'm also safe to set my boundaries in this dynamic, and it gets to be a secure attachment where that connection is always going to be there regardless of what priorities are at play or like the timing of things, and that I can like soften into that and trust that. Mhm.
Yeah, but although for you it might seem just natural, maybe, this is not what I received. Like this for me was a beautiful projection, because it was kind of a positive projection. Like, I love a queen who honors her boundaries. I was like, wow, I love receiving that. So, and right now I have a feeling of deja vu, so it's really intense right now.
You're like the third person to tell me that on a call this week.
That's really interesting.
Mhm.
So how things align months later as well. It's like, so that was our first connection point, and since then we've been connecting so much for different things,
Mhm.
and they were all meaningful and purposeful. And this for me also marks like the depth of a relationship
Mhm.
and the level of trust. So, we go to each other in the DMs for, revealing, for confidence, for talking about things that we celebrate, but also talking about things that are challenging. And we are supportive of each other, and we've been very transparent with each other. So that's how I work, like with my sacred partners, who are typically my clients, but I love to call them sacred partners because of the collaborative approach and because I'm called to talk about something that might be a little bit on a tangent, but I
Floor is
have
yours.
this line 4 in human design,
Mhm.
4-6 generator. And for the longest time in when I started my business in 2024, I just felt like I'm always friend zone. That's how
Mhm.
I felt because I was unable to see the positive perspective of having this line 4 and the positive perspective of yes, I'm friend zone because I'm a friendly mentor. Like I don't believe in mentor mentee hierarchy. Like I just don't believe in this. Like for me, all the clients I work with, they're my equal, and we're just complementary or different, or we don't have the same assets or the same strengths, but there's not someone above the other. And this doesn't exclude boundaries and this doesn't exclude respect, right? Because in my friendships, there are boundaries and respect. So for me, like I understand, I also come from a paradigm. I'm also a healthcare professional, so I come from a paradigm where there is the ontology, and the deontology code prevent us, like it's forbidden to be friend with a client for at least a year following the last service, right? So that's by law in my like healthcare profession. So I also came with this like programmation of, yeah, is it safe to be friend with a client? So that's why I came up with the sacred partnership, because in business I'm free to do what I want and I'm free to choose my clients as much as they choose me, right? So that's why for me, like the long term paradigm of like friendship, relationship, sacred partnership, client, mentors, like whatever you want to call it. For me, you all get the same treatment, you know? So I was called to, to share this for some reason.
No, I love that. Yeah, yeah,
Because we were friends before we became sacred partners. That's why I think I was called to share that. Yeah.
yeah. And it is like relevant to one of the directions that I want to go in, so we'll go there now. Um, so in terms of this, like removing the hierarchical structures of pedestaling our teachers and mentors and, you know, operating on this place of power meets power and co-creation of leadership and offers. This is working into this like web of reciprocity that is like one of the overarching themes of both of our brands, our businesses, that gives them that like new earth flavor that we keep alluding to. So I kind of want to take it there and dive into a little bit more of like what does New Earth business means in like a compare and contrast, kind of like you've already started doing, of how in your healthcare profession there is that like that distance between clients where we're talking about how we're kind of removing that in cultivating what I like to call a soul deep intimacy with the people that come into our spaces so that we are showing up, allowed to show up in our fullness, in our humanity, as well as in our like out of this world power. And dance with all of these different pieces of our light, of our shadow, of our strengths and our challenges. And it just gets to be this full spectrum expression rather than a siloed experience of like, okay, now I'm putting on my business hat. Now I'm putting on my friendship hat. Now I'm putting on my motherhood hat. Like it creates this environment that's a lot more fluid, and when we talk about fluidity, that's mm, bringing in that like divine feminine energetic. And I've watched you do this so beautifully in your business, like quite uniquely than I've ever seen anybody else do before. And for those watching, like I've witnessed Odree build her business to where she's now receiving four-figure days pretty regularly. And she's done that by collaborating with other people. Like most of your offers are collaborative offers. You have a few that are just like, you know, your own space, but even in those spaces, the way you welcome people in, it's like, okay, we're gonna have an experience together, tying back into how you came into the call. Like, I like to be experienced, me too. And so I've gone on a little bit of a tangent here, as I do, but I'd love to hear more about some, or actually, let's get specific and drop us into a moment where you chose to do things differently.
Well, a recent moment is I I was invited to that's super interesting. I feel like I'm a case study for many people because I do things in a way that they expected would not work.
Mm,
Or historically, it ends up being weird. Like a lot of collaborations, and I want to be very honest here, I had collaborations in the past that ended up being weird. So I
mhm,
learned like
mhm,
what kind of sacred partners and what kind of collaborators do I want and with who do I work the best, because I don't want to say that anybody's wrong here. It's not
Mm.
about this person was not right and I was right, or they didn't do their share and I did more. And it's not about separation. It's really about it was maybe not the best match or the best co-contribution or co-creation. So I was invited by a sister, Annie Grace Davis, the mother of the Mirrorship, and she saw me activating another space that is called the Worth Room, actually. So going back in time.
Shout out to all
Yeah,
of the
there's like
work.
so many things going on. So she saw me activate another space that's called the Worth Room when I was on stage during that week. She saw the room blow up, like literally. And then she said she saw something. She's a psychic too, so she felt something. She discovered something, and she said, I have no clue what you're doing. I have no clue what's going on, but I'd like you to come with me in the Mirrorship. So this is her offer. And she said, I'd like you to do the same thing. I'll have the same thing. Just come and activate the space from within. And, and while I was there, actually, what I was doing is modeling the ideal participant. So I wasn't there modeling the ideal participant. I co-facilitated a little bit at the beginning and then quickly pulled off because she's able to facilitate her own space. But at the beginning, I gave some cues just to activate the space with some sparkles and stuff and fairy dust. And then she invited me to provide a bonus session for some because it was a month, a gamified month. So she invited me to provide a bonus session for the person who would win the grand prize. And after that, like this was at the end of the month. So during the full month, I wasn't there activating, and she would just like add over this. Like she was like, could you also co facilitate a class with me? And I said sure. And she she was watching me and she's like, I'd like you to talk about this aspect, and this aspect. So we created a sacred trifecta, and it's basically the way she studied me and she reflected back to me because she's the mother of the Mirrorship, right? So she reflected back to me what I'm doing that I was honestly doing unconsciously. It's just my approach, it's just my natural way of being. And for me, service is a state of being. So she kind of like decorticated everything and she said, I want you to bring this to light so people can start modeling that as well if it aligns with them, of course, because they do it if it aligns and if it feels good for them. So sacred reciprocity is one of them, and the class is coming up. But the point being, this collaborative um, this collaborative partnership brought me new followers. It brought me money in the bank because she hired me for that, right? It brought me new opportunities to connect with future collaborators or current collaborators. It also brought me higher visibility because Annie, she has a bigger audience. She's been doing that for years and she's been in different communities. So she would talk about me every week. And now my name is being heard in the collective. So now the level, I don't like the word authority, but let's be honest, like the level of authority now is like, rather than being nobody, people heard my name before, so I'm not a stranger anymore. It's
Can I
easier for them to
interject
trust.
there for a
Ah,
moment? Can I interject there for a moment with something
sure,
that
sure.
I was shared with me on a call earlier today about the etymology of the word authority,
Uh-huh.
like distorted energy around it, and I feel it too. I'm like, I don't like authority content of like people being on a pedestal. But when we get down to the root of authority, it's author. And to be in your authority means to be the author of your story.
There you
And
go.
so we get to like come back to the original energetic of that word rather than like these like weird distortions that have been placed upon it. It's like, okay,
Right.
well, what is that inner authority of being the author of our own story that you're so beautifully laying out the landscape of? And I'll let you continue.
And I want to be honest with the audience here. I didn't do things right in terms of like what most advanced business mentors would tell you. And we also need to consider the context that I just started my business in 2024. So me and Annie, like I'm gonna be really cash here, like we don't have a contract. We do things day to day. Like someday she invites me there, someday I offer this. We just like back and forth to each other and we go with the flow, literally like she's a water woman, so we go with the flow and it's really does this contribution serves you and does this serves me? And if the answer is yes, we just go with it and we don't calculate like, okay, this is gonna be this amount of money and I should get this return on investment. Like the return on investment is not only indirect, but is also a magical response from the universe. Because all the collaterals of this collaboration are non-measurable.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not attribute all the collaterals solely to this collaboration because I have several collaborations ongoing, but it's certainly one of the main collaboration that brought me where I am today. And for this, I'm eternally grateful. And also eternally grateful for, Annie, she will always tend to give more than what she's expected. And I think I'm the same, not in the spectrum of overgiving, but more on the spectrum of like, I respect you. I want to do life with you,
Mm-hmm.
so I will just make sure I give what like the amount of value you represent to me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And when we can hold a mirror to each other in a positive way like this, the only way to spiral is up,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Something that Annie says often is that with rising tides, all ships rise, or I might have
Voilà.
missed a bit of that, but basically that's the essence of it. Is like we are all spiraling up together when we're approaching in this sense of like, okay, it's not about business competition, it's not about competitive advantage, it's about collaborative advantage, it's about cooperation and collaboration and like what becomes possible because of that energetic of harmonious relationship.
Yeah, and it's like rather than focusing on what you can control on a contract, because I'm not excluding a contract because I know sometimes for royalties and other things that's important to be clear. So I'm not excluding this, but this time I chose and she chose that rather than focusing on what we can control, like, okay, you will give me the email list, which you will do anyway, like you will give me this asset, and if you sell this asset, you give me this percentage. We just decided everything we co-create belongs to each of us. So if you want to sell it after, you sell it on your platform. If I want to sell it, I sell it on my platform. Like we keep things really simple. So we
Mhm.
allow the receptivity of all the possibilities rather than
Mhm.
trying to control like the outcomes of this collaboration. So this is really new earth as well. Like it's almost a little bit naive, like I trust that because I feel good in this collaboration, I'm gonna receive the best out of it,
Yeah.
right?
I want to like comment on that of like it's almost a bit naive. I think that maybe a more fitting word, and you tell me how you feel with this, would be like it's like an innocence,
Yes,
right? Coming at it from
exactly.
an innocence. You're not coming at it from all of these like conditioned layers that you're trying to protect wounds from the past and the present. And you're actually able to be open to receive the infinite possibilities that are available in the present moment,
Exactly.
which essentially is the most simplified way of describing working through the field, the quantum field. And this is what I would say, like the biggest mm, like pillar of New Earth business, rather than working through like a mind level of like, okay, I've learned this strategy from this high level coach and I'm going to plug that and play it into my business. And I'm going to get X result from this proven strategy. Rather than do that, we're actually allowing for the pulse of life to move through us, to move us in this creative process. And where we're going, what result's gonna come of it, we don't actually know, but that's the most exciting part. And we get to lean into the playful curiosity, and the joy of connection and creation itself. And for that, we are a match to miracles. And I love this conversation. Where do I want to take it? I want to bring in the quantum mirror of power. And so you started using mirror language a little bit from this space that Annie has created, a membership space called the Mirrorship. And what you shared about what Annie was doing with you, she was holding up this quantum mirror of power to you. And what that means to me is she wasn't just saying like, hey, you're doing this, I like this. She was doing that too, but she was also inviting you to see yourself in your full radiance, in your soul gifts that are so natural because they're woven into the fabric of who you are, that we often don't actually recognize that that is our unique genius. And so when we have someone that can hold up this quantum mirror power to reflect back to this, like, oh, you're doing this really unique thing here, and this is super valuable. And this is actually like, if you hone in on it and like refine, gets to be the thing that people want to pay you for. So this is the whole like concept of like get paid to exist, get paid to breathe, or like selling air, right?
Right.
Which like gets some people so upset that are really locked into this traditional entrepreneurship path. And so where I want to start to steer this is where you have been held in that space of the quantum mirror of power, and what has been revealed to you through that in terms of soul remembrance.
I think I'm gonna start by being very concrete because that's a multi-layered question. So what came up, like what I've seen that I was not seeing, is this trifecta I was talking about, this sacred trifecta. So that started with sacred invitation, which is the way I approach people with a conversation rather than approaching them with the intention of selling solely. So when we talk about selling a service, it's like, yes, but service first for me. That's my philosophy. So when I approach people, so Annie saw me do that, and she started asking questions about that, and we created this entire class. So for me, that was just being human, right? That was just what we say in French, savoir être. I don't know if there's a translation for that. Like basically, I don't want to say behaving, but like knowing
Yeah.
how to be, right? So for me, business, as you mentioned, it's not only about competencies. It's mainly about the way you are. And this has been proven even in therapy, like specifically in therapy, 80% of the efficiency of the therapy is based on the therapeutic connection. So if you want to translate that and extrapolate to business, that would mean that 80% of the efficiency of your mentorship is based on your mentorship relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to remember that because what does it mean? It means that the way you are is extremely important. you know so she saw me embodying this approach, and we created sacred invitation. Then I was in another offer that is called the game, by Emily Thorner Moon, and I embody in that offer Cleopatra. This is the character I choose to embody in that offer. And Cleopatra, she's the one who, is very present no matter the context. So she's basically the eye of the tornado, and no matter which room she enters into, she is felt. So it doesn't matter the level of noise, it doesn't matter like if it's online or in person, like nothing of that matters. She's just like felt all the time. Like it's aura-based leadership, basically. And this for me was harder to decode because I'm really, I like to say impulsive, but in the intuitive way. So I follow the pulse, right? So sometimes I just like appear in a place, like let's say a Facebook group, and I post something. And for some reason it is seen. Whereas like a lot of people will post and it's not seen because the algorithm and all sorts of reasons. And it's not because I calculate the time or like the words and the hashtags. Like it's not about that. It's just like I have a message. Like where's the best place for me to deliver that message? And I've been tuning into that lately, like more accurately, and it works. So we created from there sacred exposure. So it's the idea of being exposed. So other people will also reveal themselves to you. And this works really well because even in that mastermind where, like, I mean, we are in this mastermind with Shoshana Raven, there are like a lot of multi six figure entrepreneurs or multi seven figure entrepreneurs. Like people in there are really high level. So me, I'm theoretically I'm the small fish in the pond, but I feel like an absolute rock star in that group. And it's not because I own something. Like I don't even have a LLC. Like I'm still self-employed, you know? Like I mean, it's not even because I own any assets or anything. It's just because of the way I am.
You own who you are.
Exactly, I own the frequency. Exactly. So that's the point. And she noticed that, and rather than just like waiting for my turn, I started taking up space, but with very accurate and precise pulse. You know, like it was not random. It's not like, oh, I'm trying to post just to get some likes or something. It was like I had a specific message for that specific space in that specific moment, and people were receiving it.
Mm.
Um, so that was sacred exposure, and now we're about to deliver sacred reciprocity, which is basically what we're talking about today. This concept of collaborating in the way that serve each other and the collective
Mm-hmm.
overall. Because New Earth CEOs, this is what they want. In the end, they want a collective rising.
Yeah. That's what I call, and the whole like my whole brand is evolving consciousness. That's where we're moving towards.
Exactly.
Hmm. And I think a key flavor in that like evolution of consciousness is bringing in the full spectrum presence of like, okay, what is that specific message that is for this specific space at this specific time? And moving in a way that we're attuned to that information of receiving and delivering it, where we become this open channel for the messages to flow through with the like instructions of like where it belongs and when and all of those pieces. And from like what I see in that is that that's moving in a way that is like what I like to call psychic leadership. And so with that, we get to expand our senses beyond the ordinary five senses into our eight psychic senses, which is like our extrasensory perception that allows us to attune to this information that is the infinite field of potentiality. And in a specific way, because our frequency is attuned to what's a match in the field. So it draws the information towards us. And the example that I like to ground that into is thinking of like the mycelium network that is underground that trees communicate through in the soil. So if a tree needs specific nourishment, and I didn't create this, I heard this somewhere, I can't remember the source right now, it would actually send out signals through the mycelial network, and then those nourishments are sent through the soil to that tree. And so essentially, when we're operating in this like psychic leadership way, we're interfacing with the field to be able to give and receive information that is so specific that when we show up in our marketing in that way, people are like, whoa, like you're in my thoughts. Like, how did you know that? When we show up in our mentorship spaces in that way, we're actually able to see, hear, and feel people at such a level of presence and depth that is unmatched in any traditional business sense. And I want to give the mic over to you here to talk a little bit more about how you do this inside of the telepathic mentorship.
Yeah, so that's another thing that was revealed to me by my mentor, Natalie Wallis. I have several mentors.
We're
So
both like that in the sense of we like to do like what's the word, like buffet style mentorship.
absolutely, because the once again, like not one person will hold all the keys for you, right? So this is a belief I have too. Like I'm a traveler of mentorship. Like I'm not gonna stay. I could stay for a long time with you because I love long-term relationship, but it doesn't mean I'm exclusive. So I'm not exclusive in mentorship. But all this to say that Natalie Wallis, she invited me to ask my guides what is my soul code.
Mm,
And there are two things, and I was resisting a lot. So the first was telepathy, but I couldn't figure like what kind of use that would be in 2025. I was just like, okay, fine, but like how do I market that, right? It's a little bit woo. And then there was also the ability to predict,
mm,
like the ability to provide provisions. And this one, I don't like it because I don't like the codependency dynamic that can arise from people expecting you to predict what's going to happen for them, because even a provision can change at any moment because there are so many possibilities and paths in the field, right? So this
yeah.
one I've been avoiding a lot too. But now I'm having more and more clues that it's actually happened. Like I can really predict the future, and sometimes it's so accurate that it's almost scary. So that's a story for another time. But telepathic mentorship is really interesting because I decided to just go all in with it and to own it. Um, and not long after, like I had quite a few clients in this mentorship. It's like a one-on-one space where we do everything through voice notes and Telegram, like text or voice note. And the reason why is because there's no time space in this mentorship. So like time is excluded. And especially that we're in different time zones, but also because in telepathy there's no time.
Mhm.
Like time doesn't exist in that dimension. So what's interesting is that everything that we cap in the field, we're gonna put it in that channel on Telegram, and we're gonna prioritize and sort out like what makes sense for now or what we need to figure out later, and what we choose to work on together. But nothing is too crazy. So that's why I really love the way to work with it, because when we get in the field, it's also depersonalized. So we don't need to try to analyze like why do I get this information? Like we let go of the why and we just take everything and then we choose from it. We choose from what we see in the field. And this has been very interesting. Like I have one client, she said, like from yesterday to today, she's like, okay, as soon as I started owning my desire, the universe delivered like a miracle faster than Amazon, because it's seriously like she asked for something and the same day within 24 hours she had it.
Yeah.
And she took action, and I also gave her a resource so she could get it. But I'm like, this is the power of being connected to the right person. So just parenthesis in terms of like sacred partnerships and collaboration. So this is the power of being connected to the right channel so you receive the right resources, but also the power of acting on any information you receive in the field.
Mhm.
And not, I don't want to say any information, but any information that feels aligned and important for you.
Yes.
And that's why I like to joke. Like lately, I've been owning it too on on Instagram. I said, if you saw me in your visions, in your dreams, or you felt me in the field, it's just a matter of time before we work together.
Mhm.
And it's true, and it's funny because some people sent me the reel and they're like, "I'm freaking out right now. You actually came into my dreams," and I'm like, "It's just a matter of time." Like it's just a matter of like having the right offer for you and you're gonna come into my world because that's the way I show up and it's not even intentional. Like I don't choose that.
Mm-hmm.
It's universe pairing me with the right person in the right moment for the right purpose or meaning or reason, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like breathing into that for a moment. Mm. Coming to mind is like another metaphor that I heard somewhere, and I'm like plugged into so many spaces like you are. So sometimes I forget the sources, but it's like we're navigating through the world with like all of these doors and all of these keys that unlock the doors. And it's just a matter of like finding the right key that matches the door that you're at. And I love that analogy for mentorship because, like, yes, you could figure out how to like unlock the door or maybe find a window that you didn't know was there. It's going to take you a lot longer than if you just had that key.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I even say like sometimes I'm even holding the door for people.
Mm,
Like there are people who ask me for a door that they knew I have. Like let's say I want to say I'm the keeper of this door, but it's a door that is easy to open for me. So I opened it, but
mm,
then it's their choice to walk through the threshold or not. Like I'm not
yes.
gonna pull them through the threshold, right? So that's the thing, like because some people they ask me for the mentorship, they felt the call, I opened the door. And it can sometimes it take days before they cross the threshold, sometimes it's instant, and sometimes it's gonna take months.
Mm,
Because it's really like this idea of I want you to walk through the fire yourself. And I know like there's all these things about handling objections, but what I like to say is that if you feel I'm the embodied story that can handle all your objections, it's because it's your turn,
yeah.
you know? Otherwise, maybe you're gonna look for another mentor because when we choose a mentor, it's also about is this person embodying all the objections that I had?
Mm-hmm.
More than everything they can say or write in their copy or like any photos they can post. It's really like, where are you and what do you represent for me?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes. With that too, like allowing people to walk through the door on their own timeline because they feel that genuine soul-led desire in their heart that's pulling them forward through those fires of their becoming, and they're actually leading yourself through it, then just holding the door is an act of service. And once they do, when they do walk through the door, they've become someone in that process already.
Exactly.
And who they are on the other side of the threshold is the person that is going to be able to receive the mentorship with with reverence and mutual respect and personal responsibility. So they keep leading themselves in that way
Absolutely.
rather than in like, traditional business where there's push marketing and digging into pain points and using like
FOMO.
false urgency and scarcity. A lot of times people will walk through the door to try to avoid feeling something rather than trying to approach feeling something. And that's a whole different energetic. And when we're getting into this conversation of psychic leadership and quantum connection, the ripples of how someone enters your space is going to be how they show up in the space and how they leave the space and how you feel in that shared space too. And
Yes,
so,
this is
yeah.
true. I love that you mentioned also how they leave the space because that's an important one if you want to think about the long-term game, you know?
Mhm.
And I wrote an article in Aurelius magazine about that, like the internal bottleneck. So what I want people to know is that your payment, no matter how much it is not enough for you to get a transformation. It's part of it for like some people feel very activated because they spend a certain amount of money. But remember, it's never enough to ground a transformation and actually embody the transformation.
Yeah.
Because after a payment, like you have the dopamine hit, right?
Yes.
But if you really want to integrate that new identity, like there's a matter of like staying in that breakthrough, and a lot of people will retrieve.
Hmm. Yeah. Just thinking about like my own journey in mentorship and like experiencing, and I know you wrote about this in your experience in our Wallis magazine too, of like retreating, like pretty much as powerfully as we stepped in. And like when we're talking about like cyclical ways of being, it's like that is part of it. That like push and pull is the like expansions and contractions of moving through the birth canal of your own becoming.
Mhm.
um yeah, I just wanted to mention that part. And I'm looking at the time and I know you have to go pick up your kids soon, so I want to open up the floor for you to speak about the exciting new collaborative offer that's coming up, that's in the works, that we are co-creating together with a council of other New Earth CEOs, as I like to call them, called the Light Language Summit. And I would love for you to share with us the origin story of how this idea has taken form. And also in that to clarify like what light language means specifically to you, because it's not what most people would initially think.
Okay, so what light language means to me is the way we can code light into our day-to-day communication. So that's what it means for me, but also I know there are actual light languages, there are written codes, spoken codes, there are codes we can sing. There are also like gestures, the dancing movements. So I know it's much beyond that, but the way I like to ground this in this reality and to embody light language is really, as I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, how can I bring back a certain level of communication that feels enlightening?
Hmm.
So when I say light, I also mean love. So this compassionate communication that even though I'm setting a boundary, for instance, it's gonna feel pleasant. It's gonna feel good, although it's a boundary. Or like, even though I disagree, it's gonna feel good because the way I'm gonna call light in my communication will feel like it's an opportunity for me and for you to dig deeper or go further into that conversation, even if we disagree, you know?
Mhm.
And that's how like I received a legal threat in my DMs.
Yes.
It was very interesting. And with the light code in my communication, and it's all written, mind you, it was not even spoken. This same person a few hours later was writing me a testimonial because I walked her literally through the fire. And the same day she was hiring me for a VIP day.
I love this story so
Story.
much.
And I'm not joking. Like it truly, like this is a fact. Like it truly happened, and I thought this was beautiful because I could have been very reactive because I was accused of something that was not real. I was like, "What is this accusation?" It's like I just woke up in the morning. It was like 6 a.m. That was a really bad start of my day. So I could have become all dysregulated and just like react. But it's also like light language for me is when you speak from a place of compassion and a place of responsiveness rather than like reactivity.
Mhm.
So that's for one. The Light Language Summit is something really big. It's becoming a community, but it started with a council. And before the council, it started with an idea when I was eating tartar at a restaurant that was provided to me by Annie Grace Davis because she's this type of collaborator that spoil her partners. So I was at the restaurant eating on Annie's tab my tartar as Cleopatra, and I was joking around it. And I just had this idea that was in the field for a while, but it felt unrealistic because, I mean, I had an audience of less than 400 followers at that moment. So, like, who am I to create a summit? Like, it didn't make sense, right? The maths were not mathing. But I thought, what would be a great first step? Because this idea was really present and it stemmed from my previous offer, the Light Language Seminar in 2025. So I couldn't ignore it. Like it was like a logic continuity. It was the growth from the Light Language Seminar. Like let's say like the little sprout that wants to become a flower. And I just started sending sacred invitations to people I like and respect and be how, like, what would you think of paying a certain fee to play in that console with me? So we create a summit. And interestingly, everyone said yes, but one person. And after I sent like some sacred invitation to people I was already like connected in some collaborations, then I had other people who started hearing about it. And I'm not even sure how, honestly. Like I didn't post that much about it yet because it's being created as we speak. And you were one of these who like felt the pull in the ether, I guess.
Yeah, immediately when I heard you talk about it, I was like, I'm sold.
Yeah, right? And you probably felt this opportunity of, a collective upgrade because within the council we're gonna be these collaborators, like it's the hive of the Light Language Summit. And not only we will benefit from each other's wisdom and each other's work and specialties and expertise, but also we will provide to the collective. So that's a really interesting approach. And this is becoming like, this is more than an offer. This is something we will offer to the public, but it's also becoming a community. So
Mhm.
the Light Language Summit is going to be for New Earth businesses, New Earth leaders, light leaders, paradigm shifters, artists. Like honestly, it doesn't matter what title you choose. I don't like it's not the point here. The point is someone who wants to go through an experience of a collective upgrade and collective offer where they will learn from different sacred partners and they will create relationships that last, that last, I don't want to say forever. Yes, that lasts forever because it's an act of remembrance. Like we're actually just reconnecting in this life, right? So there's gonna be networking opportunities, and when I say networking, it's not like the awkward meeting online where you try to sell your business. It's more like actually connecting, getting to know people that are outside of your niche or outside of your current audience or outside of your current mentorship spaces. So you get to expand with them through connection. And there will be, journeys in the Akashic records. I'm calling in a voice expert, so people who are meant to write a book, people who are meant to speak on stage, people who have the dream of delivering a TED Talk. We're gonna have experts for this. I'm also calling in regenerative system experts, so people who want to be supported by technology, by AI in a conscious way. We're gonna address that also in that offer. So I really feel like if you're a medicine woman, if you're someone who, like someone who's in the mentorship space, but always feel that it's like one mentor who has the voice and everybody else is listening, in the
Mhm.
summit, it's not gonna be like this because you're gonna have a panel of mentors who will teach their expertise, but also you will have opportunities to connect with each other within the community. So
Mhm.
I don't know if you want to add anything because it's still being created and it's still like it's one of the first time I actually talk about it publicly. So I don't know if you'd like to complement with your own
Yeah.
feeling. Yeah.
I just want to point out like something I noticed there with like your hands. You're like, it's a council and like this rounding shape. It's like the circle. It's a round table collective instead of what you're saying, like the pedestaling of the leader. And then we're just listening here. And noticing someone's body language and actually like playing with that is one of my favorite ways to play with light language and tune into it because we can unearth so much about what is going on in someone's unconscious through body language and gestures and gaze, tone of voice, breath, all of these things that if you're not paying attention, you don't pick up on that information. And I guess to start to bring this to a close, like what draws me into any mentorship space, what drew me into the Light Language Summit is not from a place of mind of, okay, what am I going to get from this? How much does it cost? It's from this place of, I feel in my body that this is a place for me to grow inside of, alongside of, with. And I am devoted to my soul's evolution because I know that that ripples out into my community, into everyone that I connect with. and that ripples out into the collective. And that's my soul mission, what I'm here to do. And so as long as I'm listening to those sensory cues, and I have become an expert at decoding that within myself, because that is my strongest psychic sense, is clairsentience. And so what I love about the Light Language Summit is that we get to show up with these gifts and really own them in a space where our flames are fanned, and there is that harmonious flow of relationship dynamic with so much spaciousness and that core pillar of unconditional love that is the new earth frequency in my perspective. Yeah, that feels complete.
I love that. Yeah, and it's like learning by osmosis from an experience that was collaborative and that will work. Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel that a lot of people in the collective stop believing in collaborative work because of past experience that didn't work or that didn't end up as expected. And what my guide said about the Light Language Summit is that honestly, whether there's zero clients into the offer or whether there's like thousands of clients, the effect will be the same. So
Mm,
it's really not the target here, or the focus is not around outcomes, although we will do everything to make this known. Like we want to invite also like very renowned artists and stuff like that. We cannot reveal too much because we don't know who will say yes yet, but some people will say yes for sure. So the point being, like, it's also an experience where we can feel limitless because we will, like, one thing that I'm committed to is to send those sacred invitations to people I expect to say no
mm-hmm.
and be able to stand in my truth and handle that soft rejection until someone says yes.
Yes.
Because someone at some point will see the value of this, and this will be one of the catalytic moment that will make this offer explode. And we all feel that this thing is really big. Like it's much more like I call it like an offer by inception because even from within, like it's building up, and there's so much that it could become. There are so many possibilities, and the council is backing it up. You know,
Mm,
so
yeah. Mm. One last thing, and I'll let you go here. What you said about like people are gonna say no, and I'm not fearful of rejection, is that like function of your unwavering self-belief, of belonging, of worth, right? Like rejection isn't painful when that is in place. And that is why I think it is so important, regardless of what our business goals are, what money milestones we want to reach, how many people we want inside of our offers, where we want to be known, what stages we want to speak of, all of these desires that we speak to in our marketing. Start from that core internal place of coming into right relationship with self first. And that inception point is where we're both offering our service from. And I haven't had the opportunity to really get to know all of the humans inside of the Light Language Summit, but I can pretty confidently say that we're all operating in this way under this template of operating system.
yeah,
And that is the gift that gets to ripple out. And what it will become, we don't know yet. But that is the joy of the process we get to
exactly.
find.
Thank you so much, Denise, for this podcast. It was very soothing.
Yes. Thank you so much for appearing on this episode of The Rich Revolutionary. And we'll have all of the links for Audree's offers, how to connect with her, Instagram, all of that stuff down in the show notes. And if you are interested to know more about the Light Language Summit, something has stirred within you, please do reach out to either Audrey or herself, and we will open a door for you. Mhm.
Mwah! Thank you so much.
Thank you.